Welcome to Generations, a show which helps people 50 and better lead happy, healthy, and productive lives. Hosting today's episode, Lynn Sadoff.
Good day, and welcome to Generations. My name is Lynn Sadoff from Health East Care System, and I'm joined by Jeannie Rogers, a very familiar face here on Generations. And we have a full house today of guests to talk about senior companionship services, correct?
That's absolutely right, and what fun this is going to be.
Absolutely. And it's a full house of men as well. So we're going to have each one of these fine men talk a little bit to identify themselves, who they're with, and their place within that organization, so we know who's all sitting around the table to let us know all about senior companionship in the Twin Cities. So let's start right here.
I'm Bernie Wickland from Ramsey, Minnesota, and I'm a volunteer with the Senior Companion Program in Anoka County.
Thank you.
And I'm John Bringelot. I'm the director of the Senior Companion Program that's managed by Lutheran Social Service of Minnesota here in the Twin Cities.
Terrific.
I'm Gary Stoos. I'm a volunteer with the Little Brothers, Friends of the Elderly, and have done that for about 5 years.
Wonderful.
I'm Josh Windham, and I'm the Volunteer and Community Engagement Manager at Little Brothers Friends of the Elderly.
Oh, well, thank you for joining us today.
Isn't this fun?
This is wonderful.
This is
You
so
are
good.
doing so many wonderful things in the community for our community members, and we want to learn more about that today and share it with our viewers so that they know where they can reach out to when they need help, right?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So I guess maybe it would be good to start with Josh. You're the Volunteer and Community Engagement Manager over at Little Brothers Friends of the Elderly. Can you tell us a little bit about your organization and what your focus is on?
Yes, Little Brothers has been in the Twin Cities for about 42 years. Our mission is pretty simple. We're committed to relieving the isolation and loneliness of elders 60 and older in the Twin Cities area. And we do that in 3 different ways. One is through social engagement, a lot of events and activities throughout the month, throughout the year. We do visiting services as well, so we have a great group of volunteers that we can match our elders with to do the companionship component, and then we also are able to refer and advocate for our elders as well.
That's wonderful. That's great. And Gary, you're one of those visiting volunteers, is that correct?
I am. I'm one of the visiting volunteers. I've had 2 elders, and it's kind of an elder visiting elders. And so over this span of time, made 2 very good friendships. And it really feels like we're sort of part of family.
That's wonderful.
Beautiful.
How did you get involved? May I ask how you first came to do your volunteer work through the Little Brothers?
I was, I guess you would say, recruited. I have a young friend who had done an internship in our office before I retired, and that's how I got to know her. And she was friends with the woman who was director of Little Brothers Friends of the Elderly. And so after I retired, she said, "This is an organization you must get involved with." And I didn't think that was a bad idea, but I just didn't get to it very, very soon. And so she got to it, and she got the director of Little Brothers to call me. And so I was happy to go over and talk with them. And we went through a training program in the summer of 2008. And then in the fall of that year, we're assigned our people.
In 2008?
Yeah.
So you've been doing this for
about
quite
5 years, yeah.
And what's your weekly time that you spend in the community with others?
Well, typically it's one visit to each of them, although if there are unusual circumstances or whatever, it might be more than that. Initially, it was sitting with them in their homes, and then as the years have gone on, it's gotten to be sometimes taking a little drive with them or whatever. We've sometimes gotten in the car on a beautiful day and gone out along the St. Croix River. And if they can't get out of the car easily, just sit and enjoy the scenery. And so there's nothing all that esoteric about it, but it's the kind of thing you would do with a friend or with a family member that was shut in. In the wintertime, we're more relegated to the homes. But that's the time of more isolation also for them.
I have a question for you, Josh. When I think about this and people coming into the home, there must be some system, if you want this to happen, where people would like call your organization to say, we're interested in this, we'd like to do, there's got to be some policy how you set this up so that they know for the first time when somebody's coming,
That's right.
who's coming, Because you don't want to just let somebody in your door.
That's right.
That's correct. We do have a policy and procedure in place. Whenever we get a volunteer and an elder that's interested in this companionship program, we will have a program staff meet with the volunteer, talk to the volunteer about this particular elder, give a little bit of background, and then go with the volunteer to the initial meeting with the
Great.
volunteer and elder so that they can really bridge that gap. It can be kind of, a scary thing in the beginning if you're a new volunteer and you're going to someone's home, you don't know who this person is, but we really want to smooth that over and make sure that there's really no complications so that our volunteers are getting a good experience, but also our elders as well are getting the most out of their time with the volunteer.
That's great. Thank you very much.
That sounds wonderful. And John, maybe you can tell us a little bit about the Minnesota Senior Corps from Lutheran Social Services, kind of the focus of the work that you do in the community with your volunteers.
Well, it's a perfect match that we're here with Little Brothers today because our mission is exactly the same, to support folks to live in their own homes as long as possible. And likewise, we support about 330 senior companion volunteers around the state who are doing that exact same mission. The unique thing about the Senior Companion Program is that you might describe us as a capacity builder for many agencies like Little Brothers, DARTS, Catholic Charities, Jewish Family Service. We recruit and train these volunteers, and then they are assigned to our over 90 partner agencies around the state. And then the direct assignment of clients happens through our partners. The unique piece is that we are able to, like AmeriCorps and Vista that some folks are familiar with, as Senior Corps members, folks commit 15 to 20 hours a week of service, and in exchange for that significant commitment, receive a very small tax-free stipend, not a wage, but and some mileage reimbursement. So it's the programs are supported by your federal and state taxes because in a bipartisan way, folks have said this is a most cost-effective way to generate last year 270,000 hours of service from senior companions. Senior companions drove 1.3 million miles around the state, getting people not just in the metro but in greater Minnesota to doctor's appointments, dentist appointments, grocery shopping, and errands. And Bernie is one of that extraordinary core of 330 around the state.
And I think that's how Bernie was described actually in the email I got. You were an extraordinary volunteer helper. Can I ask how you got involved and what attracted you to do this to make this sort of commitment?
Well, about 4 years ago, I think Lutheran Social Services, who administers the program, had an ad in the Anoka Shopper looking for volunteers with a small stipend and mileage reimbursement if possible. And my wife and I both saw that, and we both volunteered at the same time, so my wife and I both are in the program. I put in about 20 hours a week, and she puts in about 15. I think she does the minimum, and I do the maximum. You're allowed that. And I have 7 clients, and I prefer to call them seniors or friends, but they're clients, and she has, I think, 4 right now.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful.
Been doing it for about 4 years, almost 4 years.
And what's your favorite part of being in the community?
I was with a senior today, and she was my first senior 4 years ago when I started. And her favorite expression is that you make me laugh. And it's just so nice to hear that.
Oh, yes, that would be.
But it's being able to meet people, the friends, and being able to see the friends every week. I see her for 4 hours, I only see her for 2 hours. Sometimes we only talk. Sometimes we go someplace to a medical appointment or groceries or something like that, or lunch. And it's just fun to be with people my age for the most part. Some of them are younger, some of them are older, but good people to be with.
Right. And it's all part of that social engagement. We talk about living a life that has kind of optimal health and well-being opportunities. And social isolation often becomes an issue as we age. Sometimes we lose spouses or partners if we've had them before, or we retire, and then it's what now? And it sounds like both of your organizations really try to help people avoid that isolation from happening.
Definitely.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. Our organization, we want our elders to be as independent as long as possible. And the biggest way that we've found to be beneficial is to get our elders out of their homes to one of our events, interacting with other people. We found that just their outlook on life improves so much when they can get out of the home and share a meal with someone. Many of our elders just are very isolated and lonely. They haven't had a birthday party in 30 years. Well, they can come out to one of our parties, receive a gift, and they're in tears because no one's given them a gift in 30 years, not even family, not even a friend. But they can feel accepted and loved at Little Brothers. And so that's huge. And then we're also trying to do more health and wellness activities as well, getting elders to be more active. Simple exercises they can do in their home, on a chair, lifting their legs up and down, or doing elastic band stretches, anything that can help our elders again stay independent in their home, that we find beneficial, I think is kind of our goal at Little Brothers.
That's wonderful. Is that the same also then at the Minnesota Senior Corps from Lutheran Social Services?
Absolutely, and it's kind of a classic win-win situation, because it's ironic that our funding sources are supporting us because we are helping people stay in their own homes longer, which is cost efficient and giving them what they want, but also the volunteers themselves are engaged and reinvigorated with their own life. We have a lot of folks who maybe a widow might be looking for a purpose and meaning in their lives, and so it's keeping our volunteers healthy and active, and we have a real optimistic view to counter some of the doom and gloom about the demographics, about how the baby boomers are going to overwhelm the public system, and it is true. We're going to be faced with some challenges there, but the vast majority of elders age well, healthily, and capable of giving back. So we hope to engage the baby boomers just like the greatest generation has stepped forward, because we are going to be neighbors helping neighbors, and that's what we are.
And I think what's so important about that for all your seniors, whether they're the volunteers or the ones you work with, is to really stress with them, whether it's the client or the volunteer, all the skills that they've developed over their life. They know stuff that other people can't even imagine what's in there, and so they're needed. If they'll volunteer for your organization, you need their skills. And they need to use those skills again and keep that stuff active and going. It's not when you walk out of employment and you're done with it. You walk out of employment and now it's all yours to do with it whatever you want. And to volunteer and to find places that say, well, I'm an entertainer. Do you need, what do you need? I'm good at working puzzles. Do you need people to help you with whatever it might be? Get them out, get them busy. It's wonderful what you're all doing here. This is fabulous. You're giving them a place to go and to bring all those lifetime skills with them.
Right.
And that says to them, I'm still important. I'm still needed, because I've got something that I can still contribute.
Absolutely.
And other people need it. And it's just a wonderful thing, I think, from what both of your organizations are all about.
Yeah, and I think it's great too, because you have some very unique programs. You have foster grandparents, I know, with Little Brothers, correct? And you have the Pen Friends over at Lutheran Social Services. I was reading about some of these more unique sorts of things. Pen Friends helps people actually, is it right? Tell me a little about Pen Friends.
Actually, I think you've got the two
Mixed up, yeah.
reversed,
There we
whatever.
go.
So you talk about pens.
Yeah, yep.
See what happens when we get all together around the table today?
Yeah, our Pen Friend program it's a great program. It's an easy program. Volunteers can simply write 2 or 3 greeting letters to our elders a month. If you're like myself, you get lots of bills in the mail, but if you get a handwritten note, a greeting card from a volunteer checking in on you, well, for our elders, something so simple as that makes their day. It brightens up their outlook on life, their week, their month, their year. So it's a great program. It's great to do for kids, for families, for individuals, and that's our friendship.
And the foster grandparents too, do you have a lot of people involved in that?
Yes,
for the young people in the cities?
Well, absolutely. It's the corollary of the Senior Companion Program. So similarly, retired volunteers 55 and older, but instead of helping elders, they are working in schools, Head Starts, daycare centers, helping kids that are behind grade level or struggling to succeed. So it's the same thing. It's a stipended program, but helping the other end of the age spectrum. And we're always looking for as I'm sure Little Brothers is, we're always looking for new volunteers in both programs.
And it's a wonderful way to bring the generations together so they can learn more about each other and respect each other. If people are interested in learning more about your respective organizations, do they just find you online? Is that the best way? What's the best way to find you?
Yeah, our best way is you can go to our website, littlebrothersmn.org, and it has all of our volunteer opportunities, and you can learn more about our organization.
And John, same here?
Likewise, lssmn.org is probably the easiest one to go to, and you'll find us there.
Thank you so much for joining us today. We've so enjoyed having you be with us and explain your services, and we know that people will probably call you. So thank you, and we'll be back in just a moment.
Thanks.
And welcome back to Generations. We're both delighted to welcome Dr. Kenneth Quickle to Generations today. He's the former president of the renowned Joslin Diabetes Center in Boston, Massachusetts, and he's the current chairperson of the Healthy Living Advisory Board of the YMCA of the Greater Twin Cities. He's here today to talk about the connection between diabetes and heart disease and all the diabetes prevention efforts that are happening here in the Twin Cities. So thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me.
So let's get right to the heart of the matter. What exactly is diabetes, and are there different types of diabetes?
Diabetes is a disease characterized by an elevated blood sugar level above normal, and it's due to a lack of an insulin molecule, which is a hormone. And it's a hormone that helps sugar enter cells so it can be used. So people with diabetes lack insulin or insulin effect. And there are multiple types. There are two main types. One is called type 1 and the other type 2. Type 1 used to be called juvenile diabetes, and type 2 used to be called adult onset diabetes. But since we've now discovered that juvenile diabetes occurs sometimes in the elderly, and adult onset diabetes occurs sometime in the very young, especially now that we have so much obesity among young people. Type 1 and type 2 are the names. There's also a very common one called gestational diabetes, which occurs during pregnancy, and it generally goes away immediately when the pregnancy is over. But it places you at risk of developing diabetes later in life.
That makes sense. Okay. So we talked a little bit at the beginning about the connection between diabetes and heart disease, and a lot of people that I've talked with didn't realize that there was a connection, but there is. And can you explain a little bit about how that connection happens?
Well, there's a big connection between diabetes and diseases of blood vessels, hardening of the arteries. And because of that, hardening of the arteries that feed the heart muscle is a major cause of heart disease. So diabetes causes heart disease. And in fact, the most common single cause of death among people with diabetes is heart disease.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yes.
I did not know that.
I didn't either.
My goodness. So how would you say that blood